Thank you. Welcome to the Forest Park Mayoral and Commissioner Candidate Forum. My name is Peggy Kell. I'm the Voter Service Chair of the League of Women Voters of Oak Park and River Forest. And I will be the moderator for this evening. We're happy to be hosting our first ever Forest Park Candidates Forum. And if this is the indication of the interest in Forest Park, we will be doing more and certainly a wider range of municipal candidates. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. We educate and advocate for our members and for our community on local, state, and national issues. Membership is open to all women and men. Please take when you came in, we are asking you to sign up, sign your name in. If you want more information about the league, we can send that to you if you shared your email with us. If not, you can just go to lwvoprf.org, and we have all of our activities and events, which are all free and open to the public. We will be having 5 more candidate forums, 2 in River Forest and 3 in Oak Park in the next month and a half. Finally, thanks go out to our voter service committee members, the ladies that touch you in, the ladies that will be collecting the cards from you for the questions, and our timer in front. Without those workers, we really couldn't run this forum. The mayoral candidate forum will go until 7:35. We will then follow with an hour for the commissioner candidates. Now for the ground rules. Candidates will be given 1 minute for opening and closing statements. They will be asked questions with 1 minute to answer these questions. The speaking order was determined by drawing when they checked in. Speaking order will alternate after each question. And with 2 mayoral candidates, that's pretty easy for us to follow. Easier for me. There's a timer in the front row. In candidates, she has paddles that will tell you what time you have left. If you see the stop sign up there and you are in the middle of the sentence, please finish. I will not cut you off in the mid-sentence, but that means you need to wrap up your comment. If index cards, again, are on the table, and we put them some on each individual table. We do need your questions. The questions, when you write them, if you can give them to some of our people that are collecting them, Jane on the side here, Sarah over there, Joanne over here, that would be great. We do have some people taping this tonight, hopefully for our use possibly too. So walking in front is going to be distracting to that. So if you want to just come and give me your card, if you come all the way over here, that would be fine. Or give it to, again, our 2 people, and they will bring it up. I will go over the questions. We do this as a way to make sure there's no duplications, and also to take any personality out of the question. If I'm asking the question, there's a little less acrimony, and if it's coming from maybe somebody from the public who doesn't agree with some of our candidates. So the moderator will go over the questions. We do appreciate them. Please fill them in and give them to our people so we can have some insightful questions for our candidates. Do you have any questions? All right, let's begin. And Chris, you're starting off with your opening statement.
Okay, from here is fine. First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, Peggy Kell, who I'm not sure if she remembers, but we worked together in a state rep forum about 7 years ago. This group does great work. I'd like to thank Michelle Fitzhenry, our local rep, for her efforts and pioneers with the group from years past, like Mary Rueda. This group does exceptional work. I'm so glad you guys are in Forest Park again. A little about me. Some of you may know I'm Chris Arias. I served on the board. Found to be a very rewarding experience. Engaging the public, working for the betterment of the village. I love dealing with the minutiae of government. I know that doesn't sound exciting, but it kind of was. I ran for commissioner with the idea that the board needed a citizen activist, someone who was the voice of the people and not being listened to. I was the first person to run with that plan, but I hope that my time spent on the board maximized that. For every person who was in the minority, it felt like they were in the minority. I'd like to think that I was their voice. I spoke truth to power when necessary and advanced the ideas that I think we all believe in. Forest Park's a quirky gem. People-wise, it's a generation of legacy names that we all know. Oak Park expats, young, urban, living inclined folks who realize our town. I'm in the middle of a sentence, right? Thanks. The one from Chicago.
Okay, you know what, you're keeping it to 1 minute.
Well, did you cut my intro, giving the compliments a little quickly?
You know what, you can finish your statement at the end because you get a 1 minute
Okay.
closing statement.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rory?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rory Hoskins, and I'm a candidate for mayor of Forest Park. First of all, I want to apologize to Chris. I didn't mean to offend you, but you were looking down and you did this in the sun. I'm running for mayor of Forest Park because I thoroughly enjoyed being the commissioner for 8 years. It may not have always seemed that way. You were around for those 8 years, but being elected was a huge honor. My wife and I have raised our family in Forest Park. We've been thoroughly involved in the community. Our kids all went to K-8 school here. We volunteered for a number of events, sporting events, whatnot. And in the 8 years that I was on the village council, we did some good things for Forest Park. We brought home money for road improvements. We brought resources to the schools. We advanced the cause of the Park District to get the boost built. And so I feel like my time on the village was a positive impact on the village. And I'd like to bring back some of that leadership to Forest Park. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Rory, with the first question. And for both of you, both of you left the village council at the end of your terms in 2015. Since then, what have you done to stay connected or be a part of the village, part of village affairs?
In the time that I left the village council, I served for a little bit more than a year on the board of the Historical Society of Forest Park. I continue to be very visible in the schools. My son Eli is an 8-year-old, he's in 3rd grade. I've coached soccer pretty much continuously since serving on the village council. Recently, we had a first place team. We beat all teams out of Oak Park, now River Forest, and that was very gratifying for Forest Park. And I've just tried to stay visible and relevant. During the governor primaries, I supported one candidate. He was not the eventual nominee, but we had meet and greets for him and we brought people out. And so it kept me engaged in the community.
Thank you. Chris?
If you travel in certain circles, you're probably sick of seeing me around. Tried to stay engaged with the public. While I was on the council, one of the big things was that through town halls on certain topics in town that I felt were important. I got off the council, I still did that just as a citizen. We did one on video gaming. We did one on diversity in town. We showed John Rice's fantastic documentary about Forest Park at one. Those are some of the things. I was also in Kiwanis while I was on the board, and then I ascended to president afterwards and served 2 years as president, and currently the chairman of Kiwanis, just staying active in local organizations. Like I said, I think you see me around town, not to the point of ad nauseum, but keep that going. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, the next question will start with you. Forest Park seems to have a deficit that keeps growing. What will you do to create more tax revenue?
Well, there's a couple. It's not just tax revenue that's going to fill this hole. Definitely that's needed, and definitely economic development. If you're running for mayor or commissioner, and the words economic development don't come out of your mouth, you've done zero work. It's very important. It's very important to invest in the community. Right now, the chamber has restarted the economic development committee. Without the complete support of Village Hall, which I think is a little bit of a mistake. I think you need an all-in approach. I think you need the local banks in with the village. I think you need to be, as a mayor, you're out recruiting businesses individually. It's not just a team effort of the Economic Development Committee. I know Mayor Lavero from Berwyn walks up and down Madison Street, tries to get those business owners to open businesses in Berwyn. That's something the mayor has to do nonstop all the time.
Thank you. Rory?
We have to expand our economic base. I've talked a little bit about potential uses for the vacant Alpine property. I know that's ruffled a few feathers because a lot of people like the idea of green space. But expanding our economic base by developing portions of that property does not have to be mutually exclusive from keeping green space. There are a lot of potentials there. In addition, my background is in economic development. I've talked about working with the Chamber of Commerce. I spent 10 years working in economic development, 6 for the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. The additional years were spent with the private sector economic development institute. And so that's in my background. I'm poised to lead economic development efforts with help from village staff and help from the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. What do you think is the number one problem facing Forest Park?
The number one problem facing Forest Park is the challenge of expanding our economic base. We're competing with Oak Park. They've upped their game in terms of accommodating new businesses, improving new businesses. And I think in Forest Park, we have to be a little bit more nimble. We have to support the chamber, like we just talked about. I'd like to see us engage in a marketing campaign, similar to what Bedford Park has done with their very consistent advertising on WDBM. Anyone listens to that, they constantly talk about their water supply, ease of opening businesses. We have other challenges. We have to heal wounds from the recent referendum. We have to accommodate our diverse population and find ways for everyone to be included. So the issues aren't simply economic, they're also social, and I think I'm positioned to make them that way.
Thank you. Chris?
Well, I would agree that the budget shortfall is a major issue in this town and needs to be addressed immediately. It's not like it's going away. It's not like we're going to get a magical fund that's going to come in and help us out. You always have to aggressively pursue grant money. That always helps the bottom line. You have to aggressively pursue business. But to touch on what Rory kind of finished with, because it's something I've been talking about, glad that Rory started to talk about it as well. And that's healing the divide in town, bring parties from different groups together, having conversations and talking again, not behind your keyboards, not people that I know live 2 doors down from each other and yell at each other on Facebook when they used to ask about their kids over their fence. I think we need to get back to that in the neighborhood feel that we all love about Forest Park.
Thank you. Chris, you'll start off this one. By the way, if you want to be able to repeat the question, just ask me. Please highlight the top 3 priorities as a potential leader in Forest Park.
Well, piggybacking on what we just said, I think healing the divide is a very important thing. We've already touched on economic development, so I can get through this question rather quickly, I guess. After that, I want to go back to this healing notion that I think this town, I know these people love each other, and I know that they're friends at some point, and one topic should not be something that literally puts a lightning bolt between people that grew up together, people that live next door to each other. And I think that's an important part. We have to have someone that comes out of the gate that knows people from both sides, that kind of isn't running on a platform that was started with one of the 2 sides of that debate. I'd like to think that I'm that person. I'd like to think that I do have friends on all sides. It wasn't a topic that I was passionate about. Usually, you would see me involved in some kind of political activity in town, but I was just kind of indifferent on gaming. We'll come back to that when the stop sign came up, but I'm sure it'll come up again later today, but we'll talk more about that soon.
Thank you. Rory?
For me, one of the top priorities is expanding our economic base. This is going to be very repetitive, but I really want to see the Alpine property developed. I'd really like to see those buildings taken down. I expect that in the coming years, the legislation will probably pass a capital spending bill. I hope there can be some funding for this spending bill to help us with that problem. I really think we need to work on bringing those buildings down. So that's number one. Number two, bringing everyone together. And one way to bring everyone together is to engage in the discussion about what to do for our hear everyone out. Third priority would be to provide consistent support for the Chamber of Commerce. I've met with Chamber officials recently. I know they're looking at some marketing activities. I think the village needs to be able to convince them that we'll support them consistently and give them some autonomy for uses of the funds. And then I'll add a fourth. We're going to have pretty much a brand new council. So I want to work on training the new council members and sharing with them some of my resources.
Thank you. Rory, the next question will start with you. What are your diversity and inclusion goals for Forest Park?
Sure. So my diversity and inclusion goals are to see the village become integrated socially. Being diverse and being integrated is not the same. We had a good start with the Diversity Commission. They still haven't really found their feet. I believe they haven't had too many events. I was not able to attend the event this past Saturday. But I think the Diversity Commission should be allowed to develop its own mission. And I see that mission as bringing in different people from different ethnic groups, get them involved in the community. And then we also have to support them. I was going through the recent budget, and their budget is a mere $2,000. And that's not a lot for a year's worth of program. So I think we need to support it.
Thank you. Chris?
I've shared this with Kate Webster, the chair of the Diversity Commission. One of my goals is to kind of shift that committee to be a reporting committee to the council, where there's some weight to the words they have. So say there's hiring policies at the village, this now gets run through the Diversity Commission. Say there's events in town, they would have a say and be able to chime in on these certain things, because right now they kind of operate, I want to say in the dark as much as they operate without, they can do things on their own. They had a great event on Saturday, but it wasn't, let's just say it wasn't with the full support of the village council, and that's what you can do. You can kind of elevate them to where you would have traffic and safety commissioner, what they're looked at, and they give consent, advising consent on certain issues in town.
Okay, Chris, the next question starts with you. Regarding the pension plan and its level of funding, does the village,
Tough question to just ask.
First of all, I know that there's the pension benefit guarantee corporation, and they'll tell you what the level of funding should be for pension plans. So what is the level of funding for Forest Park's employees' pension fund? And if so, the current underfunding level, what's your plan to fix that predicament?
Call this the Marty Talalian question. This is Marty's probably one of his biggest issues for 10 years, Marty? It's not good. I believe we're still in the 46% range, which you can say it's not good, but compared to other towns, we're kind of in the meat of where everybody else is. We're not in any kind of dire circumstance when it comes to that, which still isn't good. And Marty's a great person to talk to about this. What you can do is the state mandates, or has mandated, that in a decade, over a decade, that you have to hit complete funding. I cannot see the state following through on that. I can see them extending the deadline. I have had talks with our mayor about this, and I think it's important that we should be talking to the mayor, because he kind of knows the trends on these things as well, and talks of what's happening in Springfield. What you can do is you have to start looking at putting more in and getting to those levels. I just think the state's going to give everyone an extended deadline.
Okay, thank you. Lori?
I believe the long-term pension liability is about $59 million. And I believe the trust fund has about $37 million. In terms of bringing the pension up towards full funding, I read that by 2040, state law requires that police pension be funded at 90%. We're not close to it. I believe that we'll have to have dedicated revenue sources to fund the pensions. But that's really, it's for council to set the policy. We have to work with our financial advisors on that. And look at creative ways to direct consistent revenue sources towards the pensions. And I look forward to working with the council.
Certainly a complicated issue. Roy, the next question will start with you. Following a year and a half of public meetings and collaborative research, the Ad hoc Cultural Park Committee submitted to the village a potential proposal regarding the Altenheim property, with 3 park concepts followed by further recommendations, including additional strategies to generate revenue from the property. Will you, in your role as mayor, commit to giving the proposal serious consideration publicly before making any decision on this property?
Yes, I will give the proposals serious consideration. I've met with the proponents of the park, designers of the proposal. I think it has great merits. I don't think it's fully developed. They make assumptions about property values that aren't supported by appraisals. They don't have the buy-in of the neighbors. So it's an undeveloped proposal, but it's a great starting point. And I think what I've said earlier is that having green space and having something of a park venue does not have to exclude having some kind of development that can generate property tax revenue on the property.
Chris?
Not to toot my own horn, but in 2012, I held the first public town hall on the Altenheim space. And I know it started the discussion of a park. Jennifer Wolf is here somewhere. Those are the original ideas before Ralph DeFeebo kind of picked up that ball. I'm 100% behind this ad hoc committee and their plans. What we have to understand is their plans are evolving. The original plan of a 7,000-seat Ravinia type amphitheater is long gone. It has really been tweaked to be a place that we as citizens can enjoy. Per capita, we do not have enough green space per person to be considered healthy. So whenever you can add green space, and the fact that we have village-owned property that we can develop into that, I think is a plus. I also think with that, if we do incorporate that space in the back, the front can be sold off. And I have already sought a couple appraisals as well as a couple hotel chains to consider a boutique hotel in that spot on the front side of Madison, which would fund things that happen in the back.
Thank you. Chris, we'll start with your next questions. How would you replace the tax revenue that the gambling industry brought to Forest Park?
Great question. First, a little opinion on the way that J.B. Pritzker is moving in his first couple months in Springfield. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. I can see him lifting the opt-out clause very quickly. I could see sports gaming allowed very quickly, and that's not something that I hope would sour the town at all. That's just something where the state's trying to get as much revenue as possible, and the way he's moving on medical marijuana, or recreational marijuana, things along those lines, I can honestly see that happening. There are areas where we can replace the revenue immediately. There's things that will come back soon, things such as what's considered the recovery. When you have, say, a ticket that goes into collections, for right now we've been operating for a year without being able to collect those funds on your tax refund. That'll come back very soon. We'll be able to get an influx of a couple $100,000 via that. There are other avenues. So the stop sign's up there. This 1 minute goes fast.
Roy?
So to replace the revenue, we may be able to start by reducing operating expenses. I don't know how much we can reduce operating expenses by, but I'm sure we can achieve some savings in the village of our size, given our budget. I've also talked about expanding our economic base and specifically developing the Altenheim. We have considerable payments remaining there on the bonds. If we were to sell that property or to see it somehow developed, I think we'd put the village in a better shape.
Thank you. You both mentioned the divide that has come up between community members. between people who have been here a long time and maybe some newcomers that have recently moved in. List just two things that, if you were mayor, you would do. And I think you mentioned some of this before, but list just two things that you would do to bring these two groups together.
I think the healing is going to take place organically. I don't know that it's, the mayor's place. You can't just bring everyone to us. We're a community. But you have to make everyone feel like they're heard. You have to continue dialogue. You have to make people feel like they're involved in the village's planning. So the next mayor, I think, should just be accessible, should be a good listener, and should work to hear all sides, people's concerns about the future of our village. But I don't know that it's as simple as maybe two things that you can do to bring everything together. Just come up with that.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
Well, I mean, I think you're the leader of the town. You have to lead by example. You have to show people that you care. You also have to, let's be honest, Forest Park's one of our greatest strengths is our events, our getting together, our interacting with our neighbors. That's one of our strengths. The 4th of July, Rib Fest, these are the things that bring us together. And getting the people out, again, out from behind the keyboards and back to talking to each other one-on-one is a very important thing. But I think you, as the leader of the town, have to take responsibility and be accountable for the divide that happened in this town. You could speak from a village perspective, which, in these shifting times, what we have to do also is we have to be a little bit modernized in our communications. There is no official village Facebook, no official village social media. That will definitely change under me. There will be communications you'll be able to receive, be able to interact with the village a little more. I think that's just a generational thing that'll happen. 60 seconds ago.
Chris, this starts with you. This question starts with you. Do you think it would be worthwhile to work with District 209 to improve the educational level of Advisor East that is currently the lowest performing grade in the ISD?
What do you think you should do as a village?
Would you, as mayor, work with District 209? Do you think that is the viable responsibility to do that?
My response, and this question comes up occasionally, is that I think people may think there's more direct interaction than there is, but the interaction that's happened in the past throughout Proviso and municipal governments has all been bad. And you need to have minimal interference and maximum support. So when other towns, not Forest Park necessarily, but when other towns were getting their hands in the cookie jar, that's not helping anybody at 209. So when they need support on something, if they need extended hours at the Math and Science Academy, and they need police support for traffic, things like that, you're giving maximum support at that level. If they come to you and they have a request, I think that's the biggest open door that I would have to offer support in any way possible.
Okay, thank you. Lori?
You asked about Advisor East.
Yes.
So lots of kids.
District 209 would be all of Advisor East. Yes, in Math and Science.
So lots of kids from Forest Park attend Advisor East. Kids from Forest Park attend the Math and Science Academy. So yes, as mayor, I would want to support District 209 to be successful in its mission of educating children. To the extent that the mayor and the village can interact with the schools, absolutely. If Advisor East wants to have its homecoming parade in Forest Park, we're going to do everything we can to make them feel welcome in Forest Park. Advisor East wants to send its band to play the Park District for events, and we'll welcome them to the park. If we can lend our resources to create non-traditional learning opportunities for kids at Advisor East, we should do that as well. Bringing kids to the Village Hall event to have a civics lesson, or maybe facilitating some kind of trip. Years ago, we had a sister city relationship between Forest Park and Port Ireland. Nothing ever happened with it. But it's not to say that something can't happen with it.
Thank you. Rory, you get the next question. How would you differentiate Forest Park from the surrounding communities of Berlin, Albury Park? What would be the most prominent thing that you could talk about differentiating Forest Park from your surrounding communities?
Well, Forest Park is smaller than most of its surrounding communities. We're certainly smaller than Berwyn and Oak Park. I'm not certain whether Berwyn is home rule, Oak Park is home rule, we're not. Each of these communities has some unique characteristics. Forest Park has its own traditions. I think we've certainly been influenced by Oak Park. We have a number of residents who are located in Forest Park from Oak Park. And so we have a lot of opportunities in Forest Park. But we have our own unique road to develop. We have the Rib Fest, we have the annual Juneteenth event, and we have such a small school system that I think parents can have a lot of impact on that school system. So I think those are a few characteristics that make Forest Park, a little bit more unique from Oak Park.
Okay, Chris?
Berwyn is home rule. I don't see us being home rule anytime soon. That'll be a referendum. It's been tried many times, just a couple times, and it did not pass. I would say Oak Park is Frank Lloyd Wright tours and Hemingway, and Forest Park is cemetery tours and Heads Way. And we are our own quirky little gem. We are a unbelievably awesome location. It doesn't take much to sell it. When you're out knocking on doors and you talk to new people in town, you have a lot of young couples in their 30s that they chose Forest Park over a Chicago neighborhood. And if Oak Park didn't stand up and stop the annexation, we would have been a Chicago neighborhood, but we're not. We're our own special little place, and I think it's very important. I think we stand out and ahead of Berwyn and Oak Park in my eyes.
Thank you. Chris, the next one starts with you. With all the restaurants and alcohol establishments in Forest Park, do you think Forest Park can move towards zero plastic use?
That takes buy-in from the businesses. Actually, in Oak Park last week, I picked up a pizza at Lumonati's. Right on their box, it talks about their efforts to reduce waste. It takes buy-in from the village and the chamber. I don't think it should be done via mandate as much as through education. And I think once you can find, of course, it's economics as well. Once there's an affordable way to do things, it doesn't take much to get the buy-in from the businesses. But it's educating the businesses, and then that can be done from the village with support of the chamber, I think fairly easily, and I think that's a great goal.
Thank you. Rory?
I think Forest Park will probably begin moving in that direction. Sustainability is something I'm hearing about more and more as this campaign develops. I was in Oak Park recently, and when we ordered, the waiter definitely discouraged us from using straws. And I honestly didn't realize what he was trying to do until I read later that the park was moving away from plastics. So I've heard it come up. I don't know that it's a huge concern in Forest Park right now, but it's something that's worth being looked at. And I think that the proponents and the people who are really into environmental causes, and I totally respect that. I don't consider myself an environmentalist to the extent that I'm talking about environmental causes. I generally talk about pragmatic things like economic development. But I had a good conversation with a neighbor. We talked about the merits of moving away from plastics. And I support that. But I don't know that our town is there quite yet.
Okay, we're towards the end of our time now, so Rory, if you'd like to start with your closing statement now. Closing statements.
So first, thank you to the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. Thank you to the residents for coming to hear us. It's been a pleasure to be up here with my colleague Chris. I think we both want what is best for Forest Park. I think what you've heard tonight is the beginning of a very robust discussion, and I look forward to further developing my ideas, my platform, and contrasting my ideas with Chris's.
Thank you. Chris?
Thank you again for hosting the event. And this is an absolutely wonderful turnout. I hope, like you said, you're going to continue these events. A couple more of these debates planned, and it's fantastic to be able to talk to the residents directly and get our ideas out there. I do agree with Rory. There is some contrast between the two of us. There's some things we agree on, of course. But I look forward to taking your questions, sticking around and listening, the concerns you have in town, which to me is just as important as me telling you what I think. So thanks again to the League One voters, and thank you so much for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank the candidates for their We're just going to have a short 5-minute break to get set up for the commissioners.